Hey, what it do, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're just having a great day. So originally we were supposed to be working on this thing today, but we got to switch gears because I discovered something that's a little bit on the sad side, but it's also going to force my hand to do something pretty cool. So we're kind of having to rethink a couple things right here, and they forgot to send us one part. So as much as I wanted to be working on this today, it's not going to be happening. So instead of working on this whole thing right here, we are going to be working on something completely different that I actually started working on last year, and then I realized that I could not grow hay, and it kind of got pushed to the back burner. But I figured today is as good of a day as any to work on it. Now we're in the process of cutting down all the grass / weeds out here at the ranch, and I figured, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and try and bale it. So we're gonna try and get this thing working in today's video, and if it works, we may try and bale some hay, and as always, there may be some other stuff that makes its way into this video, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and jump on into it, and let's roll. All right, let's go ahead and turn on the handy dandy Milwaukee tire inflator. Oh yeah, piece of cake. Here she comes. No, what are you stuck on now? So this thing's in pretty good shape, other than the fact that the lock washer is broken in half and it's actually missing the nut. Definitely not supposed to look like that. So we're gonna have to figure out a way how to replace it. Stuff just keeps coming out. We got old rusty shims that are falling apart. They become disconnected. It's not just like boing. Before we actually start working on anything, for all of you that watched the last video, I just wanted to show you this real quick. This is the forklift attachment in its final form. We got it painted, looks really good. So I'm super happy with how this thing turned out. I'm actually gonna be delivering it on Monday. I just hope the customer has the same opinion. But anyways, this thing's old news. Let's go ahead and get it pushed out of the way so I can get the shop cleaned up so we can start the project with a nice clean bay. And then by the end of it, it'll probably look like this again. But at least we'll start with a clean bay. Oh my goodness. Oh, this thing is ridiculous heavy. Don't go too far. Let's keep you on the concrete. Okay. All right, well, now that we got a nice clean bay to work in, let's go ahead and walk over and take a gander, see what we're gonna need to get this thing moved. Pretty sure most of the tires are gonna be flat. Let's see. That one looks like it still has air. That one's definitely flat. And that guy for sure is flat too. All right, let's go ahead and turn on the handy dandy Milwaukee tire inflator. And let's go up to 40. Okay, let's see. All right, look at that, the tire's still on the bead. All right, well, now that we got that tire aired up, we're gonna go ahead and drag the 299 over here, chain this thing up, and we'll get it dragged into the shop. So out here it doesn't take very long for stuff to start looking like this, especially if you park it underneath the oak tree. So we're gonna go ahead and get this all cleaned out before we push it back into the shop. All right, so I got the baler in the shop, and for those of you who are new to the channel, this is not the first time that it's been in here. I got like this wild hair that I was gonna start growing hay last year, so I started working on it, put all new tires on it. I got a new one on that side. Started fixing stuff here and there on it, and then the hay that I had planted just got completely decimated by rabbits and other rodents out here. Then I kind of gave up on this thing. But since I'm waiting on parts for the old John Deere brush cutter, I figured I might as well pull this in here and see if we can get it going. And the problem that we ran into last time, and it's gonna be kind of hard to see, is that we have this rail right here that has expanded throughout the years and is not allowing this plunger or whatever this thing is called, I don't remember, to slide back and forth like it needs to. So we're gonna go ahead and cut these out so we can free this thing up and get it moving. right, so we're coming into another issue right now, and I don't know what the technical term for this is, but basically this spins, it's got all these little tines, and it feeds the hay up into there. It's not rotating, and as you guys can tell, we have this chain drive right here, which hooks up to the chain drive for that, and this thing is pretty seized up. So if this doesn't move, the plunger's not gonna move either, so I'm trying to free this up right now. All right, we're gonna have to really start digging into this thing. I'm gonna start taking all the panels off. I gotta take all this apart right there because everything's just super seized up. So basically I'm gonna just have to start taking everything apart until we get it all freed up, until we can access that whole area right there, because that's where the root of our problems is. So I gotta figure out how to take all of this and actually get it out of this chamber so we can disassemble this little rail right here. So luckily for me, almost every single nut and bolt on this thing is pretty much the same length. So pretty much I'm gonna throw everything in this little yellow bucket, and then when it comes time to put everything back together, everything's just gonna be the same. So hopefully there's not too many oddball nuts and bolts, and I'm thinking it's not gonna be that hard to put back together, but I'm gonna have probably a good 20, 30 minutes ahead of me of just taking stuff apart. So as always, we're just gonna set up on time lapse and get to work.
Calling all units. We have a 211 at 454.
So I really don't know a whole lot about these things, just trying to figure it out as I go. And for some reason, it's got these two little like spring actuated things down here. And I'm not 100% sure what they do, but they are stopping that whole slide assembly from going forward. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring these down, stick something in there to keep them down for the time being, and then I'll have to figure out what they do later. So it might be kind of hard to see, but on that plate right there, you got those two little notches down on the bottom, and they are supposed to line up with those two hooks, but this whole plate has kind of like shimmied over, and the one hook was hitting on that flange right there, preventing this plate from moving anywhere. So if my calculations are correct, this should be able to move now. Maybe. All right, here we come. Woo! Man, oh man. All right, well now that we've got the plunger slid forward a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum out that area real good. And we can actually access it from that side, which I think we're gonna need in order to get those little rails out. So I'm gonna go ahead and wheel the shop vac over there. Man, there are leaves everywhere on this stinking thing. Every time I move it back and forth, we get a new pile. All right, so I have enough stuff removed on the back end that I think if we disconnect these two bolts, I can go ahead and take the plunger all the way out the back where it's supposed to spit out the hay bales. We'll see, there's like some rivets that are popping through. It's got little pieces of angle iron, but I think it's gonna be just narrow enough to try and squeeze it out through the back. And of course, I'm gonna need another wrench. Ooh, it's got shims. All right, so when I took off the front cover, it does have shims. So we're gonna try and keep this so that we don't mess it up. Keep the spacing equal. We'll go ahead and set this guy up here. Hopefully it stays out of the way. You guys can see that we have that main rod disconnected now. And hopefully we can get this thing to slide out the back. We'll try the little baby chain fall first. All right, well, as usual, never turns out to be something easy. Basically, everything on the inside of this chamber has to come off. You've got all these little, whatever that is, I don't know. I'm assuming it's to keep the bale from moving backwards. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you got 2 more plates up front, which are gonna be really hard to see, but they got these little cup-shaped things on them. I don't know what the purpose for them is, but this whole tunnel's gotta be empty. And the ones up front have all this weird stuff that bolts to it. So I'm gonna have to take quite a few pictures so I can remember how to put all this stuff back together. And some of these are spring loaded. So I'm hoping nothing goes flying when I start disconnecting it. If there was an easier way to do it, I would definitely take that route, but I don't see any other way other than it coming out this tunnel. So we're gonna just have to take everything apart. So I really hope that's how you're supposed to do it and that I don't do all this for nothing. And I guess we'll go ahead and start taking everything off. So these are the ones that I'm kind of nervous about because it comes down to this bar right here, connects to this big contraption right here, whatever that does. And on the other side, there's a big old spring. So I'm really hoping that once these become disconnected, it's not just like boing. But we won't know until we take this all apart. So let's keep going. So far, so good. I'm thinking that's 11/16. Okay. Aw, dog. Come on. Let go. There we go. You know, I'm gonna go around to the other side just to take a look at it to try and assess what might happen once everything gets disconnected. So we got that spring. That's not very tight. I think we'll be okay. All right, well, a large portion of these nuts and bolts had been in here so long that they were like so rusted, and almost every single one of these is like a carriage bolt. So basically you have the head that goes down in there, and as you guys can tell, we had to cut quite a few of them off because as I stuck the socket on there and started spinning, a lot of them just instantly rounded out. And they just were free spinning and they were never gonna come out. So every single one of these has to come out for that plunger to be able to slide out. So I've just got one more of those plates that I cannot get out, and it's the one on that side right there. You guys can see we've got Excalibur right here. It's pretty much rusted itself to the side of this wall, so eventually we'll get it out, and then as soon as that piece comes out, I think the whole thing should be able to come back. Goodness, it's acting like there's another nut holding it on. But I don't think there is. All right, looks like it should be smooth sailing now. We got a nice open chamber. This is just kind of spring loaded. This will lift up. That's not gonna be a problem. But in theory, we should be able to drag this thing back now. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum this out one more time. As you guys can tell, we got a lot of old hay in here, a lot of rust flakes, and we want this thing to come out as smooth as we can. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get rid of all this stuff, and then we're gonna try and yank that thing out of here. So I haven't even attempted to look up parts for this thing, and as I'm starting to take stuff apart, I'm realizing that I'm either gonna have to repair this, hopefully I can find new ones, but you guys see how thick this flange is right here and how thin that is? This has been super worn down, definitely not as thick as it's supposed to be. So I'm curious to see if I can actually find parts for this thing, or if I'm gonna have to get creative and repair these, or fabricate new ones entirely. But we are to the point where this tunnel is now empty, clear, it's been vacuumed. I'm really hoping that we're able to pull this out right now. So I'm kind of nervous to try because I don't want to get disappointed and not be able to pull it out. But I guess now's a better time than I need to go ahead and start pulling. So let's see how she goes. Let's see if this little come along will do the trick. Come on, baby. Nope. Let's see. What is stopping you? All right, guys, I just heard her budge, and I think she's gonna come free. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. Oh yeah, here we go. Slow go, but she's on her way. The amount of stuff you have to take off never ends. I think there's a piece of wood right there. I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be able to see it. It sits right on top of that channel. I gotta go ahead and get that off too. Yeah, this thing way loosened up as soon as I took those off. So we'll go ahead and set those up there for now. See if she slides out. Oh yeah, piece of cake. Here she comes. No, what are you stuck on now? Quit getting stuck on stuff. Ugh. So I think this one was actually a pretty easy one. I think the shaft that goes back was just resting underneath that flange right there. So we got it propped up with a wrench. We're gonna try pulling again. Yeah, that's all it was. It's coming back nicely now. No. What are you getting stuck on now? Oh, turd. Are you kidding me? All right, so I'm pretty sure there's literally nothing else that I can take off. Every single thing has been taken off out of here. I just had to take this little ninja star off. It was getting caught on that flange right there. I went ahead and preemptively lifted this up. We got the pry bar wedged underneath there. If it doesn't come out now, I think I'm gonna give up for the day. This is my final hurrah. Let's see how this goes. All right, you guys, I'm so happy right now. You guys can see we got the entire assembly sitting on the ground over there. And technically, it did not need to come all the way out. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain why if this was a typical repair, it would not have had to come out first. And the reason is because the rails that are damaged are these ones right here. So you guys can see how puckered these are. They're supposed to be completely flat, but you guys can see throughout the years, they've gotten a little buildup in there, and they've actually kind of like mushroomed or bulged. And this is causing a serious problem, pinching the plunger from going back and forth. So this is what we're repairing. This is what needs to be fixed. And you guys can see that it ends right there. So technically, if we were to take the plunger and stop it right there, we would be able to make this fix no problem. And then we would not have had to take all of this stuff apart. But I'm gonna show you guys why I'm glad we did right now. I think the lighting's gonna be okay enough for you guys to pick this up on camera. So that channel in the middle right there houses this wheel assembly. It basically rests right in the middle. Obviously not right here, but farther down. And this is what slides back and forth. So this thing's in pretty good shape other than the fact that the lock washer is broken in half and it's actually missing the nut. Now this thing goes onto the actual plunger assembly onto this side right here, and it just kind of hangs out like that. And it's supposed to have a nut on the back side, but as you guys can tell, it did not. And so basically this piece was just resting in there, and the only reason that it never fell out is because it didn't have anywhere to go. It was basically just wedged in place, but still installed incorrectly. So we are gonna put this back the way it's supposed to be. And obviously I don't have the stuff to do it right now. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and call it quits for today, but I'm super excited with the progress that we made. When I come back, we will be addressing that issue, hopefully get that resolved, and then we'll be able just to slide the entire plunger assembly back in. And really that was the only problem with this baler, as far as I'm concerned, is that the actual plunger didn't move back and forth. So huge progress, super excited. But like I said, I gotta go and I'll see you guys when I get back. All right, well, if everything goes smoothly today, I will get to work on this a little bit, but you guys can see we got the GMC in the shop right now. And she needs some loving. She needs a new fuel filter, she needs an oil change, and over the weekend, the brakes started to make some noise. I'm pretty sure it's the front ones. I'm gonna have to jack it up, double check what's going on up here. It is possible that it's the rear ones, but the brakes are definitely making some noise. So I have to get this resolved today. And if I do finish in time, my goal on this would be to get that rail cleaned, get all that junk taken out, remove all of the old rail like this. And I do have some sad news. I was doing some research over the weekend, and guess what, guys? Finding parts for this thing is pretty much impossible. Everything's been discontinued. There is like some very minor stuff if you go on the websites, like certain nuts and bolts, but as far as like hard parts for this thing, they're pretty much non-existent now. All right, so it's definitely the rear brake pads. You guys can see that they are worn down pretty small. We do still have brake pad material. We got the little metal tab right here. That's what was making all the noise. As soon as you start to hear stuff on the brake pads, take these things off and switch them out. So my wife's already in town, so she's gonna pick up a new set of brake pads for me. But since I have the wheels off right now, I'm gonna try something that I never have done. Now these wheels are in pretty pathetic shape. You guys can see we got some serious gouges in here. They're not very pretty to look at. But what I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna try and polish them using like the hardcore buffer wheels, the little clay bars or whatever you call them. I've never done that. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot while they're off. Got to pressure wash them first, and then as soon as we're done with that, I'll take them into the shop. All right, well, I bought all this stuff a very long time ago. I've had it sitting in the shop for a couple years. I've always wanted to do the tanks and the wheels on the Peterbilt, but I've always been nervous I'm gonna mess them up. So this is gonna be a good trial run. We've got heavy cutting wheels. We've got secondary cutting. This one is also secondary cutting. It's called the smooth cut. I think that's gonna be the one I use. In my head, it sounds a little bit more gentle. Those ones are pretty rough. So we're gonna see how they do on this. We're gonna see how much it takes down. This one's like super gouged in there. All right, so I know they sell an extension for this, and this is pretty close for comfort. I may look into that extension, but we did get it on there. It was kind of a bear. It's really only got like 2 threads holding it on. So we're just gonna kind of go for it. We're gonna see how this goes, and I'm kind of excited to see how it turns out. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the wheel that has not been polished. This one's pretty rough. You guys can see we got a lot of surface scratches on it. This one has a pretty big gouge in it too, but overall it's pretty dull. It's not very shiny. Now we're gonna go ahead and come over here. I'm gonna show you the one that I just polished. It's looking way shinier. We do have a much more significant gouge in this one. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. There are some guys that know how to remedy that. I'm not one of them, but overall, looks way nicer than it used to. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing cranked all the way back down, get the wheel put back together, and then we'll go ahead and polish that one. And I'm on like a polishing kick right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the 2 back wheels and tires too. Now, I really haven't done any research on how to actually do this, but the wheels are looking way better. I'm gonna give you guys one quick little side-by-side again before we move on to this thing. We got the one dually in the rear, that one's been polished, and then here's the one that has not been polished. So they are looking a little bit better. So I'm pretty excited about this, and I think on my next slow day, we're gonna go ahead and pull the Peterbilt into this bay, and we're gonna do this to all of the wheels and make them all look shiny because they're looking pretty dull lately. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one polished up, and then I think my brake pads are almost here, so we can get the GMC back on the ground, and then we can start working on this thing. Well, I got both wheels polished up, and I figured while they're off, I might as well check the air pressure. And I could fire up the big compressor, but we have this little guy handy. And it's pretty quick at filling these things up. So we're gonna go ahead and put the little Milwaukee inflator to use. All right, so all done with the service. Changed the fuel filter, oil filter, changed the oil, put a new air filter on it. These wheels are just looking way better. I need to wash the rest of the truck so it matches it. But we are going to go ahead and dive back into this thing right here. And probably the only thing that I'm gonna get done today is I'm going to go ahead and grind off all the rest of those rails so we can get those out. And then we'll go ahead and get that cleaned up. And then I'll probably call it quits because I'm gonna have to go pick up some metal and some other odds and ends. I'm gonna have to get a ton of nuts and bolts for this thing because about half of them, when I would take them off, they would just break in half or round out. They're so old, they're so rusty that they're kind of just falling apart. So they are due for replacement anyways. But let me go ahead and start grinding, see if we can get those 2 plates off. But as I'm actually looking at this thing, I think I can get to it from the back side and take off the nuts and bolts, and I might be able to go ahead and get it out. So let's see. Stinking camera. Oh, 2 times in a row. Yeesh. Come on. I think GoPros are semi-tough. Nice, nice. Got 1. 2. 3. 4. Ooh, that last one's gonna be a doozy. Huh. Not sure how to get that one. Dang, that one's super tricky. There's always got to be 1 or 2. Man. That one's not happening for sure. All right. I'm gonna need a normal wrench to do that one. You guys, ratcheting end wrenches are the best. Trying to get this guy off right here, proving to be quite difficult. But we'll get it. I don't think I want my camera falling anymore, so we're just gonna set it on the ground. I'm gonna be optimistic right now. I think those are gonna be coming out. So we got our pry bar right here. I'm actually gonna go grab a hammer real fast. Did I miss one? All right, well, as you guys can tell, we got them out and that they are in rough shape. Definitely not supposed to look like that. So we're gonna have to figure out a way how to replace those because they do not make them anymore. I don't think it's gonna be very hard to build a new one of those, but as you guys can tell, there is just a ton of junk left over down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that out real fast, and then I think we're gonna call it a day after that, but let me go ahead and get that knocked out real fast. Stuff just keeps coming out. We got old rusty shims that are falling apart. All right, well, it took longer than I expected, but officially we are to the point where we can start to figure out a solution to the tunnel right here. We've got everything stripped. There's literally nothing left in here. Before I end the video, I just wanted to talk about a couple things real quick. Now, typically I don't do stuff like this. It kind of puts me out of my comfort zone. But if you guys have been following the news in Brazil, which I know is probably pretty rare, but I've got a lot of good friends down there. And in the very southern end of Brazil, there's a state called Rio Grande do Sul, which just got bombarded by rain last week. Did not stop raining at all. I think they got like 20 inches of rain within the time span of 6 to 7 days, and it's just causing like mass destruction. It's really, really sad to see. I wish it was closer so I could take one of my tractors down there and go help out, but I don't see that being feasible. So I will be helping out where I can. And I know things aren't easy right now for a lot of people, but if you are not in that scenario and you are in a position to help, the people of Brazil would be truly grateful. I'll be helping out where I can. And if you guys are looking to get into contact with someone, go ahead and message me. Kind of point you guys in the right direction. And if you're actually interested in talking to somebody who knows way more about it than I do, I will get you in touch with them. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. It really means a lot to me, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws to it. If you guys could do me a huge solid, like, subscribe, share this with your amigos, hit that notification button down below so you guys can see progress on whatever other projects we got going on, and I will see you guys next time. Later.